You will never change. Yes, you will never change. And this isn't personal, really. It's not. This is not an attack on your character, but you're not going to change. In any meaningful way, that is. In fact, I would bet an egregious sum of money that you, the person watching this video, if you're an adult, will have the same belief system in 10 years, the same core habits and worldview as today. Set a reminder if you don't believe me. Let's start with your belief system and worldview. Researchers in 2010 conducted studies suggesting that when a person is told information that challenged the person's ideological beliefs, it would cause the participant to double down on their original misperception. Basically, the participants of the study became more convinced of their wrong position. Part of the study that I'd like to use as an example is actual quotes by American officials used to justify the Iraq invasion. This was specifically talking about weapons of mass destruction. Participants were given corrections to the original statements of American officials. Now, these were clear-cut fact checks, objective truth to the matter. And yet, within the group that believed in the original American statements, a correction telling them that Iraq did not possess weapons of mass destruction led to them more likely believing that Iraq did possess weapons of mass destruction. Now, that was a small, relatively inconsequential political position. Think of all of the arguments you have ever held in your life, be it on call with your friends, in a Twitter or Reddit thread, or arguing with your parents with just about anything. Have you, or anyone you have ever argued with, changed perspective? Now, if I had to wager a guess, the number of times maybe would fit on your fingers, or perhaps you're hard-pressed to think of any specific examples. And these are oftentimes surface-level beliefs. If those rarely budge, the core and crux of who you are, your morals, worldview, and belief system, yeah, those are going to stay put. In fact, in 2023, a massive multi-country study analyzing 50 years of data found that core attitudes like political trust and deep-seated values are formed in early adulthood and remained remarkably immovable. Now, you'd think that massive life events would change a person's worldview and serve perhaps as an impetus for growth, but the data in the study says the opposite. Even over 19-year spans, catastrophic or major shifts, whether it be experiencing severe unemployment, enduring major political scandals, these had virtually zero long-term impact on a person's core values. The Semmelweis reflex is a metaphor for a reflex-like tendency to reject any new evidence or new knowledge because it contradicts established belief systems. It describes a psychological defense mechanism of sorts where people default to familiarity rather than objectively evaluating new facts or information. Now, modern-day researchers classify this as a complex cognitive bias rather than a single reflex because it's a result of multiple interacting neural systems. But it's termed a reflex because the rejection of new knowledge occurs instantaneously and automatically before conscious, deliberate reasoning can take place. In short, your brain doesn't actually care about objective truth. It cares about comfort. Changing a core belief requires a massive psychological upheaval, and your brain would rather just not go through that process. Now, what about your habits? Think of your day-to-day or mental habits. As behaviors repeat over time, whether it's scrolling on your phone when overwhelmed, avoiding confrontation, whatever it may be, control shifts from the prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia. This area shrinks actions into automatic, energy-saving habits. Now, the best part, or maybe worst part, is the synaptic pathways in the basal ganglia are structural. The brain doesn't, and quite literally cannot, erase them ever. Instead, it relies on them because they are the most familiar routes that require the least cognitive effort. Neurologically, a habit loop can never truly be erased. It can only be overwritten by a stronger routine. The moment stress hits, your prefrontal cortex goes offline, and your brain defaults directly back to the deeply grooved pathways it carved decades ago. So breaking a habit? Not likely. Now, if it helps, which it probably won't, well, you can view yourself like a canvas. A colorful, or well, if we're being honest here, mundane assortment of experiences as a child to adult. Year after year, your canvas becomes increasingly full. Habits, worldview, and beliefs fill up your canvas alongside your experiences until eventually there's very little space left for impression. Painting over this canvas is a tremendously troublesome process, one that won't be done often, if at all. Now, what is the point of all of this information and that terribly depressing analogy? It's not a precursor to give you some self-help, mumbo-jumbo checklist that you can follow to change as a person. If you're interested in that sort of stuff, go read Atomic Habits, write in a journal for a few months, and effectively be the same exact person as you were before. No. Rather, it's to understand that expecting yourself and others to change, even surface level attitudes, habits, and beliefs, this is largely going to be futile. So if you meet someone who's a bit of an ass, guess what? They're going to be an asshole. If your boyfriend or girlfriend, they have a tendency to snap at every little thing, you should know what your future entails. Take people for who they are, not what they can be. And if you, yes you, if you still want to change, well, I'm going to be honest, I don't think you will or can. But if you still want to try, you need to be urgent about it. Time is ticking, quite literally. The older you get, the more your canvas gets filled up and your sense of self solidifies. Habits, mindsets, and beliefs, these all become increasingly difficult to change. Now, if you're 18 watching this, the good news is you still have plenty of time. Well, maybe not plenty, but you still have time. In your early 20s, not so much. And if you're in your 30s watching this, well, I hope you like how you've turned out as a person. And stop lying about enjoying IPAs. Everyone knows you're full of shit. So now would be the time to say, prove me wrong, or maybe insert some motivational message about not becoming another piece of outcome data illustrating my point. But I'm not going to do that. If there's one thing I want to impart with this video, if you've gotten to the end, it's this. You will never change, but maybe that's all right.